Welcome to Jtwes. Welcome back to the channel for all my subscribers. And if you're not a subscriber and you're watching this video for the first time, maybe consider subscribing. I have a video today, guys, that I don't think I've ever done a video like this. I've often said my channel is Jtwes, Joey, Tasha, William, Elliot, Sam. It's just kind of about what we're doing. I do some reviews sometimes on boots or trucks or, different things, talk about oil. And a lot of you watch the channel because I garden with a 140. And I've never called myself a historian on the 140 by no means. And I've always kind of, shied away from that. But I thought I would do a video because I get a lot of questions about the tractor. I thought I'd do a video about what I know about the 140 and some things that you can do with it and my thoughts on the tractor, because I do really enjoy a 140. It is my favorite tractor. I like them all. I'll have any, but this is my favorite. And so I thought I'd do this video maybe for folks that don't know a lot about it, looking into it, different things. And guys, I get some of my information from tractor data because, like I said, I'm no historian on it, but I'll do the best I can, and hopefully if I'm wrong about something, it won't be too wrong. But I think hopefully by the end of the video, you'll have an understanding why I appreciate the tractor and why so many others appreciate the tractor. I got my trusty note sheet here, and we're using our Write in the Rain notebook. I really love Write in the Rain paper. They don't sponsor the channel or anything, nothing like that. I really love Write in the Rain. You can literally put this in the water and write on it. But, a few notes about it. I wanted to try to stay on track in this video and try to make it an enjoyable video for you guys. All right, Farmall 140 origins. So where do we get this from? And this origins come back to the A and the Super A. This is a Super A, and a straight A did not have this hydraulic pump. It was a manual lift. It was still obviously, like this tractor, but it didn't have that. And then they went to the Super A that had this hydraulics and some lift stuff. And then after the Super A, they started into the Farmall 100, which there's folks out there that say some Super A's were pretty much a 100 with a Super A grill. And the quickest way I know to know if you have one of those Jtwes or not, this space under this gas tank, I'll show you on the 140, you'll be able to stick your hand up under this gas tank versus the hydraulic block. It'll be about that tall. And if you have one of them, that's great. But then we went to the 100 for a few years. And then we went to a Farmall 130 for a few years. Or maybe only one or two. I didn't look that up. But then we go to in 1958, we go to the Farmall 140. Now, I want you to see this big international thing. We'll come to that in a minute. We went to the Farmall 140 in 1958. And that ran, get my notes here, that ran from 1958 to 1979. Now, what are some key designs that made this tractor stand out? I guess the first and biggest thing everybody notices is it's offset. The engine is offset from the tractor. So if you notice, guys, I'm standing, my left leg is in the center of the tractor, but the engine's over here. We can't do that on this 300. This 300 is more of a traditional utility tractor. The engine's here, your equipment's behind it, and if you were driving over a crop, it would be under the belly of the tractor. So that, for one thing, right off would be what makes it stand out. The other thing is a pretty neat system called the fast hitch, which we're going to get and talk about that later too. But this fast hitch here, it uses a one prong and it's able to hook up to different implements, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Clear view of the crop. And obviously, as you're sitting on this seat here, you'll be able to see your crop up under the tractor here, and you can see it more in the belly and things like that. Now, how did How did International market this tractor? Well, I think they marketed it as it would, and I think that marketing kind of changed throughout the years because there's some brochures with Farmall's not over tobacco, and then later in the years there's some with them farming tobacco. So it kind of, I guess, went regional, and they marketed it different ways. But for the most part, you know, a cultivating tractor, a tractor could do just about anything, you know, whether it be cutting, plowing, cultivating, planting, just tons of different things it can do. So I think that's how they, you know, marketed it all. The engine and transmission in this tractor, and I'm not going to go over every, you know, gear ratio and things like that, but it's a C123 engine. Just for example, the Super A's I think are C113s, 4-speed sliding gears. These are the horsepower on the engines can range anywhere between 23 and 28 depending on what model year and depending on what information you're looking at, and you got some breakdowns of PTO horsepower and belt horsepower, but so I'm just going to say 23 to 28, somewhere in that range right there. Who knows the exact amount, and obviously with the age that these tractors have on them, they're going to be a little less. If it's a fresh rebuild, it's going to be maybe a little more. So let's just say 23 to 28, somewhere in there. I want to say, I was trying to dig up a torque figure, and I was a little bit surprised by it, but I guess I shouldn't be for 23 to 28 horsepower. It's showing about 110 pounds of torque, but that's probably pretty good considering a lot of V8s, like my big Ram truck, its horsepower is about the same as the torque. I think it has 410 horsepower and 420 some pound-feet of torque. So this little 4-cylinder here is producing almost 4 times as much torque as it is horsepower. So that's pretty good. I would imagine it has a lot to do with the long stroke in it, but I digress. I think I said the first gear was maybe 1.9 miles an hour, and fourth gear is up to a whopping 12 miles per hour. Side note, my new my new Cub Cadet lawnmower is marketed at 16 miles an hour top speed. So it actually outrun this tractor. Now, over the years, guys, before y'all get mad, there were some variations in gear speeds from the Super A to the 140. There's 140s that have what they call a road gear that probably will get up to maybe 16 miles an hour or something like that. I'm sure that the high crops maybe were geared a little different. Don't know that for certain, but I would think that may be a case with those taller wheels on it. But around that gets you a close figure of, you know, without getting too specific in the weeds. I think that'll get you a general idea of the bulk of the 140s out there are going to fall under that category. They even had some with what they call a fast steer, where you didn't have to turn the steering wheel quite as much as you do on one of these. But again, kind of a small percentage of them. I think the bulk of them are the worm gear that this one has in it. Now, the different variations of the model, and I'm going to look at my notes for this. So 1958, they come out with the 140. From 1958 to 1963, and I don't have a picture of it, it had a white face grill with 3 slots, three or 4 slots running like this. And they ran that from 58 to 63. And then from 63 to 79, they switched over to this grill, which is running up and down, and it's kind of like a little mesh deal here. And I think they did that to try to match, I want to say the 404, 504, a couple other their tractors. They wanted to kind of bring them in line. Now, from what I can tell, they were always Farmall 140s up until about maybe 1973. And in 1973, they dropped the Farmall name and went with International 140s. So from about 73 to 79, they're International 140s. Same identical tractor. It just, you know, they took the Farmall part off of it. But over the years, there were changes. You know, a lot little small things such as going from 6 volt to 12 volt. The lights were 6 volt to 12 volts. Going from like push button pull starters like this Super A over here, where you would turn the switch on and pull the starter like that, going to key starters, and going from no parking lamps to parking lamps. And I've even, I've seen a 79 140 and some of the, I think 77, 78, somewhere along there, having trailer lights where you could, if you're pulling a trailer, you can plug up a trailer lights and have signals and flashers on the trailer that you're pulling. And from a canister oil filter to a regular oil filter. So little bitty changes like that throughout the years. And this tractor here is probably pretty close, other than the trailer lights, it's probably pretty close to what an end model would have been in 79. I had the key start and some flashers and things like that. This is a 76 model, and so I enjoy it. And that's, it's a few things over the years, and I'm kind of touching over it because, again, if you're thinking about one of these things and you want to learn more about it, you probably don't necessarily need to know every little specific thing. I'm trying to hit the broadest things that would mean a difference to you. A little bit about maintaining my 140, and this is me. This is not out of an international book. It's just totally me. I change oil in this thing about once a year. I did it just here a week or so ago. We had a little video of it. And I've done other videos of it, but I change the oil about once a year. I do the gear oil in this transmission. And again, guys, here we go. I'm using terms like gear oil, where I think the book actually calls for high tran fluids and different things like that. Those parts you just kind of research out, and I run an 80-90 gear oil here in my transmission. I change it about every 3 years. The bull gears, which are in the bottom of these tires here, they have some drop down housings, and you can see it better on this Super A. It's this cover right here. There's a lot of oil in there. On those, I keep a check on them about once a year. We'll take the plug out and stick our finger in there. The only way to change them, unless you welded a plug to the bottom of that housing, is you have to drop the housing completely down and clean it out and put it up with a new gasket. And that's how you would change that. I've changed these through putting brakes on this tractor, because you do have to take that. Well, you don't have to, but once you get it down, obviously you'd want to get that oil out. But I don't change it every year. I don't know, maybe once every 5, 6, 7 years maybe. There's probably a bulk of these tractors out there where that's never been changed. It's probably been checked, but it's never been changed, because they do tend to spring leaks, and they seem to, I know this is not, it's kind of funny to say this, it's not the greatest thing to say, but they seem to kind of change themselves as the older they get, because they do leak a little bit. I think mine leaks a little bit here, and the Super A obviously leaks a little bit there. So, and the thing about oil is you can drop a drop of oil the size of a dime on concrete, and it'll look like, it'll get that big. It just spreads. So a lot of times these little leaks on these tractors are not as bad as you think. They're just they just spread a whole lot more to make you think it's a big leak. Turning the page. Parts. That's a good question. Where would you find parts for these things? I'm going to mention a few. And it's not because this is the only place you can find parts. It's just because this is where I deal with parts around my area. It may be different for your area. There may be somebody local that has some 140s and stuff. But first and foremost, I think Burch Store Tractor for me, I think he's probably, it's called BurchStoreTractor.com. He's probably the foremost authority, at least in North Carolina, maybe South Carolina, Georgia, I mean, this East Coast here, he has, if it can be made for a 140, he has it. He has stuff like these arms rebuilt, this part right here, stuff on fertilizer hoppers. You can get this thing, just stuff that just, quite frankly, they quit making 20, 30, 40 years ago. He can get it, and he can get it made. Plus a lot of used parts. He once told me he had enough parts to last him the rest of his lifetime selling Farmall 140 parts. So a great source for it. Steiner makes some new parts. Steiner makes a lot of, you know, lights, electronics, seats, and things like that. All of which Burch Store Tractor has too. And I think, you know, I've dealt with Duffield Equipment, I think up in Maryland. He does a lot of planter parts, I believe. I don't know if he has as much for the 140s as he does planter, but a lot of planter parts. And then, you know, you got Facebook Marketplace to try to find stuff, different things. Again, I mentioned Burch Store Tractor because I just personally, again, guys, I know we're going to have some out there say, well, he's mighty expensive and this. Well, sourcing these parts is not cheap, so get down, fella. Sourcing these parts are not cheap. So it you know, I will say I don't think his parts have went up with what inflation has these last 2 or 3 years. So, but I'm happy to be able to get parts for this tractor and be able to get it back in the field and get it working. So it's a real blessing to have. Before I forget, those ones that I mentioned, I link to every one of my videos in the description of my videos. There's a link to each one of those I mentioned, and not Steiner, I think everybody knows Steiner, but Burch Store Tractor and Duffield Equipment, I have those linked in my videos. So I want to talk a little bit maybe about the history of the 140 as far as, you know, we talked about how I felt like International marketed it, and this tractor, and these are from what I'm talking about is just from what I've heard from my neighbors and my friends and my neck of the woods, my own personal family. My grandpa, you know, they bought a Farmall 100, which was the predecessor come after the Super A. And I hear my dad and my uncles will tell stories of buying the Farmall 100 and a bog hare, which I'll show you that bog hare in a little bit. And how they'd use it, but Grandpa didn't want them to use it too much because he felt like it was packing the soil. He probably had a little bit of argument to make there. I'm sure it did pack it a little more than a mule, but so these tractors, I think they started out as, you know, family tractors that just about could do everything they wanted to do, because, you know, they never had no more than maybe a couple acres of tobacco, 2 or 3 acres of this. Not huge amounts. And as farming got bigger, and for around my area, tobacco got bigger, you started drifting into some 2-row equipment. So now you're disking the land with a bigger tractor because you got more acres. Now you got 20 acres, 25, 30, and you're disking it with that bigger tractor, and then you come along and bedding it with the bigger tractor, 2 rows. And then you're doing 2 rows planting, 2 rows cultivating, and it kind of squeezed. The 140 was delegated to pulling the slides through the field, pulling the tobacco trailers through the field or what have you. But I noticed even when those big farmers, you know, when in the 80s, and I'd see guys raising 100 acres of tobacco, 150 acres of tobacco, 75, yes, they had 2-row stuff, but Farmall always took care of the garden. It always cultivated the sweet potatoes, and it always cultivated the green beans and the sweet corn patch. You never did see no 2-row stuff in there. It was always the Farmall 140 doing that. So it never really lost its place, but it did kind of go away from, because the farmers just got bigger. Hadn't the farm not got bigger and stayed a 2-acre farm, I'm sure the 140 would just kept on getting used. But it always still hung around the farm because it always had a home on the farm, and it always had a task that it could do that the big boys couldn't do. And we may talk about a few of them in a little bit. But that's why I think a Farmall 140, you know, you see a lot of channels, a lot of homesteading channels. You know, we're moving out here and we're building our cabin and we're going to raise our garden and we're going to do this. I think it doesn't have a front end loader, which, well, I say it doesn't have, but there were some it did. But that, again, that's another rabbit hole. We won't get into that because it's a very rare piece. But I think it's the perfect homesteading tractor. If you wanted to have a couple acres of garden and you wanted to be able to cut it, plow it, disc it, plant it, cultivate it, put it back in the soil, plant a cover crop, and start over the next year, it'll do it. It'll do every bit of it. And we're going to talk about how you can supplement some of this equipment, because guys, we're going to go look at some equipment. We're going to talk about a few pieces of equipment over here at the barn. Maybe not all of it, a few of them. But I'm going to talk about how you can maybe supplement it and how the 140 can be a great companion to a utility tractor that has a front end loader and stuff. But we'll talk about that in a second. Let's go over here and look at a few pieces of equipment, and we'll pick it up. 140 equipment. It's getting harder to come by, fast hitch. And don't worry guys, we're going to talk about hitches and things in a minute. Fast hitch, stuff's getting hard to come by. This is a fast hitch bush hog. So we were talking about, you know, what you could do. You could bush hog your old crops down. You could bush hog your corn stalks. Different things like that. They're a little bit heavy on the tractor. I try not to ever run this bush hog where I'm totally lifted off the ground. I like having a little bit of the weight on the ground. I like having that tail wheel to hold a little bit of weight. We don't want to lock brakes, swing it around real fast. Puts a lot of pressure on that fast hitch. And I mention these things because I want you to be able to take care of your fast hitch and not bend anything. There's so many fast hitches out there that are bent and pretty rough shape, because honestly, it's just, you just can't treat it like a 4430 and lock that brake and swing it around with a chisel plow on the back of it. You got to be smart about it. It's not built to do that, but it's built to handle what you want to handle. It's pretty tough, because I've seen fast hitches take a lot of abuse, so they are pretty tough. But here, perfect example, bush hog for the 140. Next, we have a plow. Everybody, you know, they think about plowing and stuff like that. So here we have a plow, and it's a one bottom plow. Now this plow here for a 140 is going to be a little bit hard to find. There's a lot of folks want them. Why do we like a one bottom? Well, it's real easy on the tractor. It plows real well. You don't too much have to worry about trash with a one bottom plow, because it's going to flip the trash with the plow. And it's an all-around good plow. This is an example of an international one bottom plow. It's a 16-inch plow that matter of fact, we need to get it on these two boards. You can't see that other board, but there's another board under there. I always try to keep them off the ground itself. But what you will find, and what is available quite a bit, is a two bottom plow. This is 214s. It's also an international plow. It will pull it fine. It gets a little tight in heavy or clay type soil. It will get a little tight on it, but you can find these a whole lot easier. You can find the one bottoms, but again, it's a fast hitch plow, and it will pull it good. The next one I want to talk about, so I talked about plows. I'm trying to talk about this in order of how I would use them. So the next one we talk about, it's a spring tooth tiller on an international toolbar with a fast hitch. Where do I use this at mostly? I mostly use it in the spring of the year. If I've plowed something that fall, I go through with this and break it up and let it air out a little bit, let it start mellowing up and temperature come up in the soil. Cold soil does not work good. the warmer the soil is, the better it works, the more loamy it gets. But we'll chisel plow it. I say chisel plow, it's not chisel plow, guys, that's just me. I use that term a lot. What makes this one great is it does have some gauge wheels on it that I can set it at a certain depth, and I don't have to too much worry about it binding the tractor up too much, or putting a load on it too much. We'll have the hydraulics in float position, and we'll maybe pull it 2 ways across the field. Maybe we'll go this way and go that way and break it up real good. And after it's broke up real good and it's aired out, we'll use a disc. And the disc that we would use, and I hate using this for example because it is it's a hard to find disc, but it's the International 122 disc. It is fast hitch. We're going to talk about, in a minute, I'm going to show you guys what you can do, because I feel pretty certain you can get a plow. If it's a tube bottom plow, I feel like you can find one of them. Those are pretty easy to find. A disc is a little bit harder to find, and especially with the bearing situation in them, the bearings hard to find and things like that. But I'm going to show you guys in a little bit what you can do as far as getting a disc for your tractor. But we'd cut it with this heavier disc. This is a heavier disc. It's heavy. It'll go down in the soil. It'll cut more. It'll chomp up some of maybe if we've done like I've done this year. This is my first year planting a rye cover crop. It looks real well. So my idea is in about March, I'm going to come in here and just chisel plow this up real good, and just start working it up until hopefully a later mid to late April planting of sweet corn. That I will mention, I don't have to worry about the crows this year like I usually have to, because we got something to solve that. And so that's usually why I tried to plant it early as I could, is for the crows. But I'm getting off track. So we'd cut it with this big hair and get it cut up maybe a couple times with it. And before it's all said and done, we would come back with what I call a lighter hair, which is this, I call it a finishing hair. And guys, I'm just like you. Sometimes I don't have the things I need. This will do the job if this is the only one you can find, because I just got that bigger hair. I say harrow disc, I'm trying to use some terms right. I just got that disc, so I hadn't always had it. This one will do the job too. It will go in behind that spring tooth tiller and it'll work it up. Now, another disc, which is a possibility, and on this disc here, this is a bog hair. Now, a bog hair, the thing about them, they're real angled, and they only cut one way. They just flip stuff out of the way, and they work best, because you can see I lifted that thing back straight. They work best if you make you some weights for the back, which I have. I have weights for this one, and it's good for, if you didn't have a bush hog, to bush hog your corn stalks. Or even if you did bush hog the corn stalks, it's good about taking that row that you made throughout the year when you were cultivating and breaking it back flat, so you can come in with maybe this disc and cut it up. So it's good about that. It's good about tall grass, big ragweeds real tall. I cut a field one time not too long ago, big giant ragweeds real tall, and it rolled them out. I mean, it cut them out. And it's a special way you need to use this disc to keep from throwing all your dirt out of the field, and also to keep from almost making beds in your field. Because if you just went around normal, you'd end up having a little gully on each pass. So you have to double cut with this thing. You got to double cut with it so you'll keep it even all the way across. There's lots of other fast hitch equipment. I wanted to touch the basics, what I thought you would need to get a field up, make a field up, cut a field up, get some rows made, or be able to plant. Just an example of some stuff that you don't have to have. I have this here. It's actually called a furrow plow, and it's usually best in conjunction with two of them. and you make furrows with them, but I have this one set up as a potato plow. You have a little scoop pan. I've got videos of me using this scoop pan, moving some dirt around. I moved quite a bit of dirt from the bottom of this patch up to the front of this patch. But again, when we were talking about that 140 being a complement to a utility tractor with a front end loader, well, you could have done that with a front end loader about as fast as I've done it with this, probably faster. You have stuff like scrape blades, and is it as good as a land plane? No, it's not, but you know what? It will get the job done. If you got that 140 in float, the hydraulic arm in float where it's not putting down pressure on the fast hitch, you can get it done with it. I mean, again, it's not a land plane, it's not that, but it can get done. If you put some gravel out and you want to spread it out a little bit, you can do it with it. Again, we're talking about a one tractor solution to all. And here's another piece that would be kind of rare. And guys, I haven't fully found its place yet. I do know that it made a beautiful crop of ryegrass here. We cut it. We sowed it with a spreader, which honestly it took, I don't know, a few minutes to sow this whole little patch in ryegrass. I mean, I could have done a half an acre, in less than an hour probably with that spreader, because it was putting it out pretty far. Yeah, I would have been walking a lot, but point is, it sowed it. And this worked it into the soil, flattened it out, basically planted it for me, and worked out beautiful. As you can see, it's a beautiful stand of ryegrass, and looks like the deer like ryegrass. Winter, it's not ryegrass. I keep saying that, winter rye. But that's a little bit about the equipment. There's other equipment that's been made for 140s over the years. There's a lot that I haven't showed you, a lot that I don't have. A lot of aftermarket companies made disc. There's Holland transplanters that plant in tobacco, but not only, I wouldn't mention them for tobacco nowadays, but they would plant cabbage and they'd plant sweet potatoes and different things like that. They still sell Holland transplanters brand spanking new. So you could get a fast hitch prong and make it up and put it on a Holland transplanter now, today. So there's a lot of little things like that I do, but just giving you my idea of some of this equipment here and what I do with it and what we can do with it. Now that we've, out of breath, just walked from the barn. Now that we've talked about some fast hitch equipment, let's talk about planting a little bit, just because that's pretty important too. First of all, let me show you a planter. Guys, this is an example of a planter. There's a hopper right here. As you can see, the fast hitch prong, the wheel, the hopper has plates in it that's going to meter the seed out, come down this tube and get planted. Now, this is one style of planter. That is a international planter. I have two of them. But again, I'm trying to give folks other ideals too. So let me show you another ideal. Another example would be a push planter. And you say, what are we talking about here? Okay, so you've got the field cut, disted, or again, the complement of the utility tractor that you have. The utility tractor has a tiller on it, and you've cut it with that tractor. You've got it all ready, and it's tillered up, and it's nice and smooth. You could run, and we're going to use a Super A for example, because this same stuff right here will fit on a 140. You run off the rows with 2 feet. You come along with a push planter. Again, guys, we're not talking 25 acres. We're talking half acre, acre of garden total. You walk this right down the center of that row that you just made with those 2 feet. Hoss Tools has a planter. This is Earthway cedar. There's other planters out there. You walk it down the center of the row, You plant whatever it is you're trying to plant, and it's planted and ready to go. I plant it with an international planter. I do plant sometimes with that planter. I've planted some watermelon with it, come back and cultivated it later. I plant obviously with my big planters, and the things I've planted with it, truly, other than the corn, the sweet corn and stuff, the green beans and a few things I plant with that international planter, I could do it just as quick with a hand planter, to be honest with you. So I don't want you to think, oh gosh, I can't find this. I cannot find a international planter. I cannot find a cold planter. I can't find none of this for the 140. It's not necessary. It's nice you have them, but it's not necessary. That hand planters will go a long ways. You'll be surprised probably how much, if you have a field cut, laid off with some back feet, so you know where you're at in the center of the row, you'll be surprised how much you could probably plant in 2 or 3, 4 good working hours. You can plant more than you think you can. So don't let the planter discourage you. So a little bit about cultivating on the tractor. So we talked about how it, will disc and plow and get the soil ready, and we've talked about planting, how it will plant. Now we got to take care of the crop. So, and this is the whole gist of the offset Cultivation tractor. We've talked about the other things that will do what utility tractors will do, the plowing and such. But now we're going to talk about what a utility tractor can't do, but this one can, which is what makes this thing so special. It will cultivate it. These tractors have these arms on them. The 140, through the years they were a little different. Super A or straight A had manual lifts. Super A has these lifts right here, carried all the way through to the 140. This is a set of later model international lift arms, and you'll notice you got bars like this, bars going across here, and we'll use the Super A for example, and we have bars that would go in the back of this. I just don't have it on there. I have the fast hitch on there to show you other things. And then feet to plow out your track where your tires were. So different things you can put on there. Guys, you can do stuff like, you use this 1 foot here that obviously hadn't seen dirt in a million years, but if you want to do what to do called maybe lay off some soil for potatoes, you'd have these two in the back, and you'd have this one in the middle. You let this down, let the two, and what ends up happening is you get two little bitty rows that you can plant something in the middle of it and cover it up, such as potatoes. You have little straight point shanks that go on these. These are called, I've just always called them 140 feet or 140 shanks, but I think they're cultivator shanks is the correct word. So let's just say shank. So you have these shanks, so you had points on them, and you can mount them here, and you would use these cuffs right here, and they'd go in there, and you'd mount maybe one there, that's 2 on each side, 2 on the other side, and your crop's in the middle right here, and you let them down, and it just loosens up the dirt around them and changes. I have different shanks. They have little half shovels that will flip dirt to the inside. They have all kinds of different things like that. Wow, that's cold. That is freezing. Have a lot. A lot of people ask about hilling, making a row up. I'm not going to hold that, guys, because it is 0.2 degrees on that thing. A lot of folks asked about hilling the row up, making a row up. I don't like planting on a tall hill. A lot of my videos, you'll see me knock a hill down to about this tall. But yes, you can hill a row up with a 140. You can make a row to plant in. In that cuff you see me had just a minute ago, it would mount on here, and it'd be about right here like this with that cuff, and another one on the other side to match it, and you'd make the row up. There's a lot of, I'm big, my channel's big for using rolling cultivators, and rolling cultivators to me will do the job of the shanks, the half shanks, all of this stuff that gets mounted here from here to here to cultivate the crop. I use them because they'll do all of that at one time, and I never have to change anything the rest of the year if I don't want to. I do have videos obviously of me using half shanks and points and things like that just to show that it can be done, because not everybody can get a set of rolling cultivators. They're very expensive. I'm fortunate enough to have got some used, wore out pairs, put new bearings in them, and they'll last me the rest of the time I ever need them. Because quite honestly, I like some that have been about half wore out anyway. While we're on here, when we were talking about maintenance a little while ago, I failed to mention that other maintenance items, obviously, you want to grease everything on this tractor. But I've come and I've added grease fittings where International never had grease fittings, and some of these cultivating arms right here, different places. And what that does, it gets a little bit of grease in here. These are this are some big wire points, and when you're looking to buy a 140, you want to kind of see how loose they are. They're going to be loose, guys, because they never had grease fittings from the factory. They didn't have any type of bushing that you could replace, like a bronze bushing or something that you could replace after 4 or 5 years of usage. So those are big wire points, and I meant to mention that a little while ago. Uncommon things with a 140, and you say, what do you mean uncommon things with a 140? You just kind of, you look at what you got to work with, and you think, okay, how can I solve this problem? And I'll give you an example. So maybe you're the type that likes doing some sort of bed under cloth. Maybe you have that homestead where you want about a 5-foot bed, and you're going to put cloth over it, and you're going to raise something under that bed. For us, it was tobacco plant beds, and we'd have a field cut perfectly flat. You could take this disc right here, and you could set it like this, and as you're it'd be on here on the back, and it'd be angled this way. It would grab the dirt and throw it right there, and you take that tractor and you drive it in a square, whatever side. And basically what you're using this disc for is to create a trench, turn around, put it this way, put your plant bed down, and put it back over the trench. We used to do that. You guys have seen the channel that I have a scrape blade that I knocked the top of a ridge off. Yes, I do make, the scrape blade is an uncommon thing. That's nothing International never had. I do make a furrow, tall furrow sometimes, and I knock it off with that. I do it for different reasons on the channel. Number one, I use it a lot planting corn, green beans, things of that nature. It gives me a uniform planting bed. My bed's the same height. I don't have any disc tracks that I have to worry about the planter going down in, covering the seed up too much. It gives me, I can drop the planter and keep the same. So different thing. That's just something that I never seen that nowhere. I just knew what I wanted to do and figured out a way to make it happen with the 140. I've stretched wire with this tractor. When I built the goat lot, I've stretched wire with it. I've lifted post out of the ground with it. You back straight up to a post and hook it low and lift the lift out. I have a boom pole, albeit it could use some re-engineering because it's a little far out. But it'll lift a couple 300 pounds, not too bad. You don't want to lift the engine with it because that gets it pretty light in the front. We've done that. But so it's a lot of little things. So you know, it's doing the job of a utility tractor. Now it's doing something that a utility tractor can't do, which brings me to fast hitch. We showed you fast hitch equipment. We showed you if it don't. The Super A, a lot of 140s out there are set up kind of like this Super A. If you'll notice these arms here, the smaller arm here, there's no fast hitch on it. And it's not made for it. It doesn't have the equipment for it, but it's set up for cultivating. And if you can get a 140 and you have a utility tractor to do your plowing, your disking, your harrowing, let it be just a cultivating tractor. Let it be just a planting tractor. Well, yeah, you couldn't really plant with it, but let it be this Super 8 this year was my main cultivating tractor. I'm working on a fast hitch on it. As much as I know about these things, it's taking me a little bit of time to put the parts together. We've had some friends of the channel give us some stuff for the fast hitch, and we're almost there. Not quite yet. We're getting closer and closer. Here is the fast hitch right here, guys. We talked about it briefly. You heard me mention putting it in float. Here's a little lock nut right here. This is what puts this thing in float. It allows this arm to freely go up and down. You don't have to worry about it, because this will put down pressure on it. If you lock it right here against this, and when it goes down, it's locked and it's pushing it down. Hardly ever does it need to be locked. Cultivating is about the only time I'll put down pressure, so it puts down pressure on these feet. But I mentioned over there, you know, I can't find no fast hitch equipment. I mean, what are we going to do? Well, Burch Store Tractor, he sells some 3-point. If you have a fast hitch, he sells some 3-point conversions where you can make this hitch back here a 3-point hitch. And guys, it'll work. I've got a 3-point conversion that I made. I just, again, made it up out of my head. I seen what I wanted to do. And there was a couple of pieces of equipment I wanted to have access to, which is a Perfecta. It's like a field cultivator. And I wanted to be able to pull it because it was a 4-foot wide one. And I wanted to be able to pull a disc harrow, a newer one, brand spanking new if you want to. I wanted to be able to pull it. And I could, and I did. And how I did it is I took a category 1 hitch, welded this piece, and a fast hitch prong to it through the middle here, which created, and I'll show you. Which creates a 3-point hitch on this tractor. Now, I don't have it all the way in. For this to work all the way in, I don't need the center link on there. The hitch has to be hooked to the belly of the tractor, which makes this straight up and down. But once I have it hooked to the belly of the tractor, it's straight up and down. And I got videos of me using this, and it works great, works perfect. You back up to it, you hook to it, hook it here, and you're good to go. I don't know if you guys will realize the hardest part of this whole video was showing you that fast hitch conversion. I had to get it out from under the shelf and put it on the tractor. But it works good, and if I ever seen a disc, nice little tailor-weight disc or something, you know, 5-foot disc, I could certainly use it with it. Now, throughout the years, I can do what I need to do with this 140, but even because I do feel strongly about the Farmall 140 getting complemented by a utility tractor. And when I say complemented, I mean the utility tractor doing the plowing, the disking, and you know, you're concentrating on planting and cultivating. So guys, don't worry if you're thinking about a 140 to do this gardening with, because quite honestly, to me, the key to the tractor is is built for organic farming. It is built for non-pesticides. It is built for not spraying land. It's built for cultivating, keeping crops clean of grass without any chemicals whatsoever. I failed to mention, and it goes without saying, there's attachments that you can put here and here that will administer fertilize. And of course there's an argument to be made there about it doesn't have to be chemical fertilizer. You can put fish meal fertilizer, I'm sure, in some of these hoppers, and it would administer it out. A lot of times I put fertilizer out with my hands. To be honest with you, unless I'm dealing with an acre of corn, quite a bit of stuff, I don't really worry about the fertilizer that much as far as how I administer it out. My garden stuff, I do it by hand anyway. But, it'll do fertilize and it'll do different things like that. But what I was saying about this 300, I've been working on it, trying to get it to where I can get a disc and a plow. And once I get those two things, I probably won't be disking as much with the 140, and it will be more planting and cultivating and things like that. But it's no hurry. It's nothing I'm trying to do in the next year, 6 months. The 140 will probably do all the disking this spring and the cutting and the plowing, and hopefully we'll have the fast hitch for the Super A by then. And then we can do a little bit of disking with it. But just a video of my thoughts of a 140, because I do realize that a lot of you guys watch the channel because I do drive a 140, and I appreciate you watching all my other videos too, even when it's not about the 140, maybe it's about us cooking. By the way, man, we had an excellent steak last night on that Pit Boss grill. We got the internal temp up to about 145, because I like it medium well, 145, and then I cranked the Pit Boss up to 500 and opened the sear plate up and seared each side of it. Oh my goodness, guys, that was one of the best steaks I think we've ever had. I enjoyed it. Sammy said that it had too much of the Montreal seasoning on it, which he does have a point. On a grill, you're flipping those steaks so much, a lot of that seasoning comes off. And here it didn't. But of course, Sammy, I didn't fail to mention to you that I let this Montreal seasoning stay on there for about 30 minutes, which is something I don't normally do when I grill. So it had a chance to soak in a little more. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it helps someone new. Guys, if there's some things that I missed, it's just because I didn't think about it. And if I was wrong on anything, I tried to do the best I could on some of those numbers and not try to get too exact, but give someone a good general idea, because I'm no Farmall 140 historian, and I have no idea where they were built. I'm sure it was probably somewhere in Illinois or something like that, but I enjoy my Farmall 140. Very blessed to have it, glad to have it. And if you ever get a chance and you think about, and you can get, and I should say this, the video is about a 140, but from a Super A to a 100, 130, 140, they will all do the same things that I was talking about. So you have a little bit wider of a stance there. And if you guys would, if y'all would care for me to have a video comparing the Super A to the 140, I don't know that, well, I'd say I'd do one, but guys, if this Super A has a fast hitch on it and the 140 has a fast hitch on it, there's really nothing that Super A won't do that 140 won't do. They will do the same thing. So I don't know if that'd be a short video. Hey guys, Super A 140, if they're set up the same, they'll do the same. But having said that, y'all have a good day, a good week. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's cold. We're going to go in and try to do some nice editing for you. And hopefully you enjoyed it. God bless you. God loves you. We'll see you.